in this review, I am going to talk about I Will Never See the World Again, the memoir of an imprisoned writer, written by Ahmet Altan, published by Granta Books in 2019 in the UK. And then in that same year, it was also published by Other Press in the US. The book was translated from Turkish to English by another Turkish writer named Yasemin Çongar. I hope I'm getting these Turkish names right, pronunciation-wise, okay? Who is Ahmet Altan? Well, he was a, let's say, recalcitrant and outspoken journalist. Outspoken against, let's say he was a thorn in the side of the conservative Turkish government under President Erdogan. President Erdogan, many would say, is a tyrannical leader. What is true is that in 2016 there was a coup d'etat to overthrow Erdogan's government. A failed coup d'etat, and afterwards there was a media purge in which I think 131 different media outlets were closed down and 117 different journalists were arrested. Ahmet Altan was one of the journalists that was arrested. He was also a novelist, but I guess he made most noise as a journalist. He was sentenced to life in prison, okay, in 2016, all right? Although he only spent just over 4 years in prison, thank God he was released in April 2021. But when he wrote this book from prison by hand, passing it to his lawyer, who then passed it to Yasemin Çongar, he thought he was going to spend the rest of his life in prison. He was 68 years old. He was charged, okay, for using subliminal messages in TV appearances and newspaper articles to incite the overthrowing of the government. The charges are ridiculous. They're trumped up. He talks about this in the book. Basically, the book is 19 different narrative and reflective essays about, well, let's say, the day he was arrested, his first night in prison, his prison cell, his cellmates, what it's like to live without a mirror. I think the first line of that chapter is, has your face ever suddenly disappeared? Okay, get a tiny sense of his style, which I'll talk more about later. What it's like to live without a clock. He then has to invent one. What it's like to write in prison, what writing means to him. This plays a very important role in the book. And also chapters about various attempts to humiliate him and the other prisoners. Look, in his case, I would say attempts to humiliate, because I think this book is about using his imagination, using his writer's mind to transform reality, okay, for him. There's a line early in the book which says, "Reality could not conquer me. Instead, I conquered reality." Yes, this is a book about overcoming, without a doubt. And one of the things that helps him overcome, the main thing that helps him overcome, is his writing. He is able to write in any conditions. He talks about, he's in this noisy cell, the TV is on, he can forget everything and write. His cellmates can be arguing about religion, he can forget everything and write. And he talks about, he says, forgetting is the greatest source of freedom that a person can have. And he talks about how writing also enables you not only to forget, but to be remembered. Okay? That is certainly the case with Ahmet Altan, who has, 500,000 or 1 million readers around the world. Okay? The book reminded me a little bit of a book I read years ago by Eduardo Galeano about Uruguay and the oppressive totalitarian dictatorship that took place there. I think the book is called Days and Nights of Love and War. And it's not exactly maybe magic realist, but, well, I would say Ahmet Altan's book is not magic realist, but there's something about the way that he tweaks details so that they kind of dance defiantly and brilliantly before your eyes that makes the oppressive circumstances that he's living under not seem so oppressive to him. It's as though the prose kind of like shakes the reader out of the oppression, and therefore you get the sense the writing shakes the writer out of the oppression. You know, there's a chapter. It's called The Judge's Concern. Just so that you get a general idea. It's a short chapter. It's only about 2 pages long, so I'm not ruining a lot for you. I'm not even ruining this chapter for you, okay? But basically, what's happening in this chapter is he's being sentenced for, among other, in this case, being a Marxist terrorist. It's one of the trumped-up charges against him. And so there's the presiding judge and his assistant judges, and they're deliberating about the sentence. And suddenly the microphone accidentally gets turned on, okay? And Ahmet Altan overhears them realizing that they're going to miss the service bus home, okay? And so suddenly, the judges rush to sentence him. I think the line, it ends this way, right? Within 3 minutes, I had been sentenced to 6 years, and the judges had missed the service bus. We were both upset, but I think the judge was more upset than me. All right, this is his style, right? Like, this god-awful, atrocious injustice has just occurred, and Ahmet Altan is making us laugh. He's converting his oppressors into kind of like pathetic buffoons, and therefore you kind of get the sense that the oppression lifts. Sometimes in this book, sometimes I wondered if he wasn't really telling the truth or being 100% honest about how this experience oppressed him. You know, look, that's not really true, because there's obviously this scarred him. Obviously this wounded him. There's one scene early on in the book where I guess where he experiences sort of the most sort of humiliation with a whole bunch of other people that were just kind of rounded up and, thrown together in this kind of dungeon-like prison. Everyone together being, eating bread and water or cheese sandwiches, frozen cheese sandwiches, great details, right? Everyone's packed together, and then suddenly they're all brought to the hospital so that, I don't know, maybe some international organization has to prove that they're not being tortured. So this oppressive government brings them for these doctors to be checked, right? And I guess Ahmet Altan's family realizes that he's going to be taken out of prison, so they're waiting at the hospital to catch a glimpse of him. And at one point, Ahmet Altan witnesses his daughter see him, be taken out of this van, handcuffed, looking thin, ragged, just humiliated, and he sees his daughter's reaction, and he talks about how he will be forever wounded by this moment. So I don't want to say that he ignores the oppression that he's under. However, there's a line where he says, "I have never woken up in prison." Not once. It's beautiful, this section, because he's writing about how as the weather changes, and he sees snow out his window, or he hears rain, or, the sunlight when it breaks through the sort of cage above him, he's never waking up in prison. These details of the weather take him to these places all around the world, okay? And it's this beautiful passage about overcoming, this beautiful passage. I mean, it's so rare to find inspiring writing that's not hokey, right? And Ahmet Altan does it. Just listen to this. Others may have the power to imprison me, but no one has the power to keep me in prison. I am a writer. I am neither where I am nor where I am not. Wherever you lock me up, I will travel the world with the wings of my infinite mind. Each eye that reads what I have written will host me quietly in their houses, in their halls, in their rooms. Right? It's so powerful, right? You know, he's done it. He's overcome his circumstances. I believe, okay, that writing was his coping mechanism. And it was a powerful coping mechanism. And it allowed him to get through. I just don't know that I believe how easy it was for him to convert reality or to conquer reality, as he says. You know, but it's as though he made a choice. This is what I think as a reader. I think he made a choice, right? The truth that he's trying to communicate is how it's almost as though, you know, he's laying out before his enemies, he's laying out before his oppressors, right? The ineffectiveness and puniness of their punishment. It's almost his revenge on his captors, you know? And it works. He mocks them. He puts them in their place. He's in the higher place spiritually, without a doubt. You know, they are the puny ones. They are the ones who are humiliated, okay? Not him, okay? So that truth is, I think, or he made the decision that that truth was more important than him describing the oppressiveness of what prison life was to him. Do I recommend this book? Absolutely. I almost felt guilty for how much I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I looked forward to it every time I opened it. It's a short, quick read. It's something you can read twice in a row, okay, to really have it sink in. It's light, it's powerful. Yeah, man. This one you gotta read. It's, you know what it's like? It's almost as though he's flipping the bird with sound effects, you know, like to his captors, you know? But it's a literary achievement, you know? He turns that vulgar gesture into a beautiful literary achievement. Gotta read this one, man. Gotta read this one.